Welcome to the Dead Genre Chronicles Apocrypha. These mini-episodes will be posted between full game-focused ones and will vary in topics and number of speakers. On this episode of the Apocrypha, I'd like to discuss the scheduling of the podcast, since a monthly podcast is kind of odd. The thing is, with a book club or similar podcast, you have to give your listeners time to consume the media in question, and JRPGs are kind of long. That's why I like them, but it's also hard to convince people to play more than one of them a month. I mean, we've only played on the shorter end of the spectrum so far because we're starting out with SNES and PS1 games. Wild Arms 1 isn't a very long game, and Live Alive wasn't either. Once you knew what to do, it's kinda quick. However, once we get up into PS2 or PS3 era games, which are coming in the next couple of months, it gets a little more restrictive to tell someone to beat one of them in a month. I'm trying to not impose too much on you, the listeners, who obviously have other things going in your life, but it feels kinda lackluster to have just one piece of content every month. So with these mini episodes, myself and my co-hosts, and perhaps guests, will be able to use this platform to talk about critical stuff that they'd like to bring up with regards to the genre. I'd like to make it sort of a mix between my signal boosting of work on Twitter at JRPGsAreDead and Critical Switch, but we'll see how it develops. Speaking of Critical Switch, I'm really glad Austin and Zolani started it because it's really nice to have this small radio show mostly once a week that gets you thinking about video games in different ways. Zolani opened up some artistic criticism on games to more casual engagement by virtue of the medium, which I appreciate. Reading is kind of a commitment, but if it's in audio form, it's someone talking to you. So you can do other stuff while you listen and still absorb the information. It's good stuff. I want to do something like that, but specifically limited to the scope of this podcast, which is JRPGs. So in pursuit of this, we've got a few ideas for our auxiliary episodes lined up. One of these ideas is revisiting sequels to games we covered on the show. For example, if we wanted to talk about Wild Arms 2 or 3 or any of the further ones, we could do a mini episode devoted to that if a couple of us wanted to play it. RG and I are going to talk about Tales games because basically the idea for this whole podcast came up when we wanted to schedule our time spent with older Tales games so we could commiserate over whatever oddities they had. I asked, why don't we make a podcast out of this? And here we are. Tales of Zestiria is coming out in a month-ish, and we're planning on doing an episode of that sometime in the new year so we can give people time to get through it and out of spoiler territory. Leroy wanted to do an episode on Etrian Odyssey, grinding and JRPG difficulty, and he's nearly done with it, so look forward to that. The first episode was delayed due to some abhorrent weather in Washington knocking out my power for 2.5 days, but I hope to not delay further episodes' release dates of the first weekend of every month. Past that, the schedule is kind of fluid because we're still getting stuff sorted out, both on a tech level and a life level in most of our cases. It took a lot of time to edit the first episode together, and there was still a lot of wonky echoes going on in the second half, but once we hit a rhythm, and once everyone's life is settled, we'll probably do more mini episodes between full ones. Perhaps we can do some live streams on the weeks between audio episodes, but I think one piece of content every 2 weeks is a solid pace. I'll see you next time on episode 2 of the main show. For now and forever, long live JRPGs.